You know that moment when your whole world shifts and you can actually hear it cracking? Yeah, that was the sound my marriage made. The night I found out my husband was sleeping with my best friend. Before I tell you what happened, make sure you hit subscribe. Because trust me, what you're about to hear isn't just about betrayal. It's about revenge, rebirth, and a kind of justice that money can't buy. And while you're here, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I love knowing who's out there listening. Anyway, my name's Talia, I'm 28, and for 12 years I built my life around one man, Ryan. He was charming in that kind of calculated way, the kind that makes you believe you're special because he chose you. We met when I was just 16. I thought he was older, wiser, successful. Turns out, he was just practiced. By the time I turned 25, we'd built a skincare line together. Or at least that's what I thought. We called it Lume, a sleek, minimalist brand that started from a tiny Etsy shop in my kitchen and grew into a $32 million company with influencers begging to collaborate. But the truth? The brand wasn't what made us. It was me. The formulas, the branding, the packaging, all mine. Ryan was just the guy who said, "Let me handle the business side, babe." And back then, I was naive enough to believe that meant partnership. I remember how proud he looked when we opened our first real office. Glass walls, soft lighting, my name printed on the product samples. But behind the scenes, he was already rewriting the story, slowly taking me out of it. The first red flag? When people started calling him the founder. At first it was small. An investor email addressed to him, a podcast request for his vision. He'd laugh it off, say things like, "Oh, babe, they just assume the man runs the business. You know how people are." I'd roll my eyes, tell myself it didn't matter. After all, what did I care about titles when we were in it together? Then came Sophie, my best friend since college. She was the kind of person everyone liked instantly. Warm, funny, the life of any room. When I told her about Ryan's idea to expand into retail, she offered to help with the PR campaign. I thought it was perfect. Two people I loved working side by side. But looking back now, that's when the first fractures started forming. Sophie started spending more time at our office than I did. She'd send texts like, "Hey Talia, don't stress, I already went over the client deck with Ryan." Or, "We decided to push the launch date." We. And I'd smile, trying not to feel replaced, because that's what women are taught to do, right? Keep smiling. The night it all broke, it was pouring rain. I was home late fixing a shipment issue with one of our suppliers. Ryan said he'd be working late with Sophie, finalizing the new product line. Except, he left his iPad at home. And when it buzzed with a message, I didn't even mean to look, but my eyes caught 3 words that froze me where I stood. "Can't wait tonight." My hands shook as I opened the thread. Dozens of messages. Flirtatious, intimate, old. The kind of familiarity that only grows over time. Pictures, plans, whispered conversations. They weren't working late. They were together, and they'd been together for months. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was disbelief. I remember whispering to myself, "No, not her. Not Sophie." I didn't even cry that night. I just sat there in silence, staring at the storm outside the window. Somewhere between the thunder and the shaking glass, a different kind of realization hit me. If they were this close, then what else were they sharing? I opened my laptop and logged into our company files. Every password I'd ever set changed. Financial access restricted. Emails rerouted. He'd locked me out. The man I built a company with, the man I trusted with everything, had already erased me before he even packed his bags. And as I sat there, drenched in betrayal and the glow of my screen, I realized something. He wasn't just leaving me, he was erasing me. And I wasn't about to let that happen. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was heartbroken, though I was, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan laughing. At me. At how easy it must have been to take what I built and pretend it was his. By morning, the shock had curdled into something sharper. Something like resolve. I made coffee, sat at my desk, and wrote down everything I could remember about Lumet. Every product, every transaction, every investor meeting. If he thought he'd cut me out quietly, he was wrong. The first thing I did was call our accountant, Lydia, an older woman who had handled our books since the beginning. She'd always liked me. When she picked up, I forced my voice to sound steady. "Lydia, can you check the company filings for me?" There was a pause. "Is everything okay, Talia?" "Not really. Just humor me." A few minutes later, she came back with a soft gasp. "Sweetheart, the company registration still lists you as the legal owner." I blinked. "What?" She went on, "Ryan never updated it. Maybe he thought it didn't matter since you were married, but all the tax records, the corporate structure, everything, it's under your name." I nearly dropped the phone. All those late nights, all those arguments where he'd said, "You wouldn't understand this side of the business." He'd been building his empire on my paper, and he hadn't even realized what that meant. I didn't tell Lydia the whole story yet. I just thanked her and hung up. Then I sat there, hands shaking around my coffee cup, realizing something that made me laugh, actually laugh. Ryan had built his kingdom on sand, and the deed had my name written all over it. But I didn't confront him right away. That would have been too easy, and if he'd taught me anything, it was how to play the long game. The next few days, I acted normal. I texted him like nothing had changed. I even went to the office, smiled at Sophie, who couldn't even look me in the eye. She wore my old blazer that day, my favorite one. I remember thinking, "You can wear my clothes, Sophie, but you'll never wear my name." I started documenting everything. Emails, receipts, transfer statements, every little piece of proof that showed who really owned Lumet. And I reached out to a lawyer, quietly. A woman named Harper, who specialized in corporate law and, more importantly, loved cases where arrogant men got burned. When I met her for coffee, she listened without interrupting. By the time she finished, she was smiling. "So," Harper said, closing her laptop, "your husband transferred funds, used your brand to promote his new lifestyle, and is probably funneling company money into personal accounts. But, and this is the fun part, he did all of it under your legal ownership." I blinked. "Meaning?" She leaned in. "Meaning, you don't need to take anything back. You already own it. You just have to prove it publicly." That's when the plan began forming, piece by piece. For the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect oblivious wife. Ryan moved into Sophie's apartment, flaunting their new freedom online. Every post, every picture, every fake smile. It all just fueled me. He even had the nerve to announce a major company milestone. I remember watching the live stream from my laptop, him standing in our office, my logo behind him, calling himself the visionary founder of Lumet. And Sophie stood beside him, pretending to be his PR director. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to watch. Because every time he opened his mouth, he gave me more evidence, more rope to hang himself with. He ended that live stream with a smug little smile. "Lumet isn't just skincare," he said. "It's the reflection of my passion, my leadership, my soul." I remember whispering, "Then I guess your soul belongs to me." Harper helped me prepare the legal side. She filed the documents that froze the company's main account under my signature. We arranged an internal audit through a third-party firm. And when the notice went out, Ryan called me in a panic. "Talia, what the hell did you do?" "Sorry," I said, feigning innocence.
The accounts are frozen. My card got declined at dinner last night. Oh, that's weird. Maybe you should talk to your company's owner about that. He paused. You're not. Oh, I am, I interrupted. In fact, legally, I always was. There was this long, delicious silence before he muttered, You don't understand how this works, Talia. You don't have the experience to run a business like this. I smiled to myself. Maybe not, but apparently I had enough to build one. He hung up on me. I just sat there, sipping my coffee, listening to the sound of my heartbeat. Calm, controlled, steady. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one being played. The next few days, everything moved fast. The audit uncovered multiple irregularities. Ryan had been moving company money into a personal account he shared with Sophie. Harper called it embezzlement. I called it karma. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get better, Harper looked up from the file one morning and said, Talia, do you realize what this means? What? She looked at me with a full-on smile. If we take this public, not only do you reclaim everything, but you can remove both of them from the company entirely. You could go on record as the sole founder of Lume. I remember staring at her, the words sinking in slowly. Sole founder? The girl who mixed ingredients in her kitchen? The wife who was told she was just the creative one? The woman who was erased from her own success? Now I could take it all back. But I didn't want to just take it back quietly. I wanted everyone, investors, customers, journalists, to see exactly who Ryan was and exactly who I'd become. So Harper and I planned something big, something public, something unforgettable. A press conference. Not some angry tell-all, not a messy social media war, a single, poised statement backed by facts, legal authority, and power. The kind that ends careers in a single afternoon. The night before it happened, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't pain keeping me up. It was anticipation. I stood by the window, watching the city lights, thinking about how far I'd come, how far he'd pushed me, and how tomorrow, everything would change. For the first time since that night I saw Sophie's name on his screen, I felt peace. Because tomorrow, I wasn't just getting revenge, I was reclaiming my story.
I woke up early the next morning, not from nerves, but because I'd already finished being afraid. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized, hair pulled back, eyes steady, the same white blouse I used to wear when we mixed our first batch of moisturizer at home. Back then, it had cocoa butter stains on the cuffs. Today, it looked like armor. Before leaving, I whispered to my reflection, "You built this. Go take it back." At the press hall, the air buzzed with the usual chatter of reporters and flashing cameras. Harper handled the logistics while I waited behind the curtain, reviewing the statement one last time. It wasn't long, only a page and a half. Direct, calm, impossible to twist. I wasn't here to rant or cry. I was here to end a lie. Harper peeked through the curtain. "They're ready." I took a breath, stepped onto the stage, and the room fell quiet. "Good morning," I began. "My name is Talia Reed. I'm the legal founder and owner of Lume Skincare." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some recognized me from old product demos, others whispered Ryan's name like they weren't sure what to believe. For months, misinformation has circulated about the leadership of this company. Today, I'm clarifying the record with verified documents from our auditors and the corporate registry. On the big screen behind me, Harper clicked through slides showing signatures, filings, and bank statements, every one with my name. Lume was incorporated in 2017. Since that date, the ownership and intellectual property have never changed hands. Any statements to the contrary were made without authorization. I paused, letting the silence stretch. "Effective immediately," I added. "Mr. Ryan Reed and Miss Sophie Lane are terminated from all positions within the company. Their activities during the past year are under legal review." A wave of whispers rose again. Cameras clicked like gunfire. Then came the question from a journalist near the front. "Mrs. Reed, wasn't your husband the public face of the brand?" I met his eyes. "He was. I was the hands that built it."
The crowd went silent again. When the press conference ended, the clip spread faster than any ad campaign we'd ever run. Founder reclaims $32 million company from cheating husband. The headlines wrote themselves. By noon, my inbox exploded with messages. Old clients, distributors, influencers asking for statements. Harper called it a controlled wildfire. I called it justice. That same afternoon, Ryan showed up at the building. Security called me first. "Let him in," I said. He stormed into the lobby, red-faced, waving his phone. "You humiliated me." I stayed seated behind the reception desk, calm as stone. I clarified the truth. You did the rest. He slammed the phone down, playing a clip from the press conference. "You think this makes you some kind of hero? You destroyed everything we built together." I stood up slowly. "We didn't build it. I did. You were just the echo that took credit." His voice cracked. "You can't run this alone." Watch me. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. The next weeks were chaos. Investors pulling back, suppliers asking questions, but Harper and I handled every call, every signature, every headline. People expected me to crumble under pressure. Instead, I streamlined everything. I relaunched our flagship serum with new branding, REBORN, a name that said exactly what it needed to. The ad campaign showed a phoenix-like shimmer spreading across skin. The tagline, simple: "Out of damage comes strength." The first day sales crashed our website. Reporters started calling me the silent founder. I wasn't silent anymore. 2 weeks later, I saw Sophie again. She came to the office, eyes hollow, makeup smeared like she hadn't slept in days. "She's hollowed my makeup. I just need to talk," she whispered. I gestured for her to sit. "I didn't know he'd go this far. I thought he was leaving you because he wasn't happy." I tilted my head. "And you believed that justified stealing everything we built?" Tears welled up. "I made a mistake." "No," I said quietly. "You made a choice." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. I pushed a small envelope across the desk. Inside was her final paycheck, exactly what her contract allowed, not $1 more. "This ends here, Sophie. You can rebuild your life, just not on mine." She left without another word. Ryan tried harder. He sent flowers, letters, even a voicemail where he almost sounded sorry. Almost. But the thing about betrayal is, once it burns through you, there's nothing left for guilt to cling to. I didn't hate him anymore. I simply had no use for him. When the divorce papers came, I signed them without comment. Harper slid the final copy across her desk. "You're sure you don't want spousal support? You'd win easily." I shook my head. I already got what mattered: freedom, credibility, and a clean name on every document. Months passed. REBORN exploded in sales. Magazines called it the comeback of the decade. Investors who once ignored my emails now begged for meetings. But success didn't feel like fireworks. It felt quiet, the kind of peace you only notice after a storm. One evening during an interview, a reporter asked, "What inspired the name REBORN?" I smiled. Loss, and the reminder that sometimes you have to burn down what's false to find what's real. They nodded, probably expecting a rehearsed line. But I meant every word. A few months later, I went for a walk by the river. It was where Ryan had proposed all those years ago. Same bridge, same evening light. I leaned against the railing, thinking how strange it was that a place could hold both endings and beginnings. A teenager recognized me, probably from a viral clip, and called out, "Hey, you're the woman who fired her cheating husband, right?" I laughed. "That's one way to put it." She grinned. "You're awesome! My mom loves your products." I thanked her and watched her jog off. For a moment, I just stood there, the wind tangling my hair, realizing the irony. Ryan always said I'd be nothing without him, but without him, I'd become everything I was meant to be. Later that night, I posted one final message on the company page. To every woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough, build anyway. They'll try to steal it, claim it, break it. But what's truly yours can't be taken, not when your name is written in the foundation. Within hours, it was everywhere. Thousands of comments, stories, women tagging their own rebuilds. That's when I knew this wasn't just my revenge. It was my rebirth.
When I walked into the boardroom that morning, I could feel the tension like static in the air. Every seat was filled. Cameras, flashing lights, investors whispering, and right at the center, them. Ryan, my husband, looking smug in a tailored navy suit, and beside him, my ex-best friend, Alina, dressed like she was auditioning for a perfume ad. Sleek, gold jewelry catching the light, chin lifted, pretending she belonged there. I took a deep breath. My hands didn't tremble. Not anymore. The CEO's seat, my seat, sat empty at the head of the table. Ryan leaned back, smirking. Well, look who finally decided to show up. I walked toward him slowly, heels echoing against the polished floor. I don't recall needing your permission to attend my own company's meeting. He scoffed. Your company? Let's not start with your delusions again, Talia. You know who built this brand, who made it go viral, who took credit for other people's work? I cut him off smoothly. Yes, I remember. His smirk faltered, just a bit. The lawyer, standing at the edge of the room, cleared his throat. Before we proceed, we'll need to confirm the ownership documents for Ethereal Skincare Inc. as part of the acquisition transfer. Alina leaned forward eagerly. Perfect. Let's get this over with. I smiled. Oh, you'll want to see this. The lawyer opened a folder, laying out the official documents on the long mahogany table. According to our records, the company's founder, majority shareholder, and legal owner of 82% of total shares is, he turned the page, Talia Reyes. Silence. For a full 5 seconds, no one moved. Then Ryan shot up from his chair. That's impossible. She signed it over. I was the one handling. The lawyer calmly pushed a notarized page toward him. Mr. Reyes, your name was never registered as an officer or shareholder. All filings, tax records, and ownership transfers list Mrs. Reyes as sole proprietor. Alina's face drained of color. But she can't. I looked directly at her. Can't what? Run my own company? Fire you? Freeze your cards? I turned to the lawyer. Please proceed. The lawyer nodded. As per Mrs. Reyes's written instruction, the following employees and consultants are hereby terminated effective immediately. That includes Mr. Ryan Reyes and Miss Alina Torres. The sound of chairs shifting filled the room. Reporters gasped. Ryan slammed his hand on the table. You can't do this, Talia! I stood tall, my voice calm but firm. You made a brand out of lies and self-promotion. I made a business out of integrity, and integrity lasts. He glared at me, jaw tight. You think this makes you powerful? No, I said quietly. It makes me free. And then I pulled out a small card and slid it across the table. It was the press invitation. Tonight, I said, I'm announcing the next chapter of Ethereal. A new product line, a new message. Alina sneered. Oh, please, what are you calling it? A pity party? I smiled. No, REBORN. The cameras went off like fireworks. Ryan's face twisted, the realization hitting him that the story had already left the room, and I walked out, not looking back. Later that night, the event hall glowed with soft amber lights. 100 journalists waited, their lenses trained on the stage where the new logo shimmered on the big screen. REBORN by Talia Reyes. As I stepped up to the podium, the crowd went silent. I wasn't wearing designer. I wasn't trying to look like a CEO. I was just me. 2 months ago, my life fell apart. The people I trusted most betrayed me. I thought I'd lost everything. But sometimes, losing everything is the only way to see what's real. I looked out over the room. This company was never about luxury or perfection.
It was about resilience, about women who rebuild themselves, about starting again, stronger. The lights dimmed slightly. Behind me, a short film began to play, clips of real women, workers, creators, survivors, sharing what rebirth meant to them. It ended with a simple line on the screen. "We are never ruined, only remade." The audience rose to their feet. Applause thundered through the hall. In the back corner, I saw them. Ryan and Alina, pale and silent, watching as the brand they tried to steal turned into something even bigger. My security didn't stop them. I didn't need to. Their punishment was standing there, powerless, while the woman they underestimated became unstoppable. After the press conference, I walked outside into the cool night air. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "You think you won? You just ruined the only good thing we built." I stared at it for a second, then typed back, "No, I just reminded the world who actually built it." Then I blocked his number. A week later, REBORN launched. Within days, the product sold out. Major retailers offered exclusive partnerships. A viral clip of me walking past Ryan and Alina during the press conference hit 12 million views. Every comment said the same thing. That's what rebirth looks like. And honestly, they were right. Because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebirth. Mine. If you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or told you can't rise again, remember this. You don't need to prove them wrong. Just prove yourself right. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is success.
When I woke up the next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages, notifications that wouldn't end. At first, I thought something was wrong, another PR fire, another headline twisting my words. But when I finally unlocked the screen, my breath caught. Hashtag Reborn by Talia was trending at #1, not just in the country, worldwide. Millions of women were stitching the press clip, the one where I walked past Ryan and Alina in silence, adding their own stories of betrayal, rebuilding, and starting again. The most liked caption read, "She didn't shout, she didn't fight, she just walked past them. That's power." My hands trembled a little, not from fear, from disbelief. Because for the first time in years, people weren't seeing me as someone's wife or someone's shadow. They were seeing me. Talia Reyes, the founder, the visionary, the survivor. By noon, every major outlet wanted an interview. CNN, Forbes, even morning talk shows are running segments titled, "How One Woman Took Back Her Empire." I ignored most of them. I wasn't ready to sit under studio lights and have strangers dissect my heartbreak like it was entertainment. But there was one message that stood out. From my old college mentor, Professor Diaz. "You always had the spark, Talia. I'm proud you finally stopped letting others hold the match." That one made me cry. Not because of the words, but because it reminded me of who I used to be. Before the marriage, before the facade, before I'd started shrinking myself to make Ryan feel taller. Later that week, I called an emergency meeting with my leadership team, the real one. They were nervous at first, unsure what this new version of me meant for them. So I walked in wearing jeans, a white shirt, and a calm smile. "Relax," I said, setting my phone face down on the table. "We're not changing direction, we're evolving." Lena, my head of marketing, leaned forward. "You're saying we keep reborn as a permanent line?" I nodded. "Not just a line, a movement. I want to build an entire foundation. Grants for female founders, mentorship programs, real stories of women rebuilding their lives." Her eyes widened. "That's huge." "Good," I said. "It should be." There was a long pause, then one by one they started nodding. Lena smiled. "You're not just reborn, Talia. You're unstoppable." The next few weeks blurred into long nights and endless meetings, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel drained. I felt alive. Every decision, every idea, I was steering the ship now, not from behind someone's ego, but from my own conviction. Investors called begging to double down. Stores couldn't restock fast enough. A feature in Vogue Business called Reborn the redefinition of resilience. And yet, amidst all the noise, there was one silence that lingered. Ryan's. No calls, no texts, not even a lawyer's letter. until one day a knock on my office door broke that silence. Lena poked her head in. There's someone here to see you." "Who?" She hesitated. "Your ex." I froze. For a second, I thought about saying no, pretending I wasn't there. But then I remembered the look on his face during that meeting, that mix of arrogance and panic, and decided I wanted to see it one last time. "Send him in." He walked in wearing the same cologne he always used. Familiar, almost nostalgic, like a ghost of a life that didn't belong to me anymore. He looked smaller. His confidence had thinned out, his perfect haircut grown just a bit uneven. "Talia," he said, his voice low. "Ryan." He glanced around my office. Minimalist, sunlight streaming through the glass, awards lining the shelves. His eyes landed on a framed photo of me at the REBORN launch. "So this is who you are now, the big CEO." I leaned back in my chair. "I've always been her. You just never looked close enough to see it." He chuckled dryly. "You think this fame thing's gonna last. People move on, Talia. You'll be old news in a month." I tilted my head. "Maybe, but at least I'll still have my company, my peace, my name." His jaw tightened. "You know I could have taken you down. You only won because I raised a hand. "Stop pretending this was ever a fight you could win. You didn't lose to me, Ryan. You lost to your own greed." He exhaled sharply, frustration breaking through his polished facade. "You really think you're better than me?" "No," I said quietly. "I just stopped being less." He stared at me for a long moment, then laughed bitterly and turned toward the door. Right before leaving, he muttered, "You'll miss me one day." I smiled. I did, for about 3 weeks. The door closed behind him, and just like that, the chapter was done. For real, this time. That night, I sat by my window with a cup of tea and watched the city lights flicker below. It hit me how strange healing can feel. Not loud or cinematic, but quiet, ordinary. No fireworks, no grand finale. Just peace. A text from Lena popped up. "We hit 10 million in sales. You did it, boss." I typed back, "We did it." Then I opened Instagram, not to check numbers, not to stalk anyone, just to look at the #REBORN tag. Thousands of women, all ages, all faces, some showing their small businesses, some posting post-breakup glow-ups, others holding their babies, writing, "I rebuilt for her." And I realized something. I hadn't just built a company. I'd built a community. A few days later, a reporter from The Guardian came to do a profile on me. She was kind, professional, but genuinely curious. "What drives you now, Talia?" she asked. I thought for a moment. It used to be anger, proving people wrong, but that fades. Now, it's gratitude for the woman who believed in me when I didn't. She smiled. "You know, people are calling you a symbol of reinvention." I laughed softly. "I'm not a symbol. I'm just someone who stopped apologizing for existing." When the article came out, the headline read, "The woman who lost everything and built an empire from the ashes." And maybe for the first time in my life, I actually believed it. Not the empire part, not the fortune, but the rebirth. Because it wasn't just about revenge or success anymore. It was about finally living without the weight of someone else's permission. A few days later, as I walked to the office one evening, the sunset pouring golden light across the floor, Lena stopped me. "Hey," she said softly, "you good?" I smiled. "Yeah, better than good." She grinned. "You sure you don't want to go celebrate tonight?" I laughed. "Maybe tomorrow. Tonight I just want to breathe." And I did. I stood there by the window, the city humming below, and for the first time I didn't feel haunted by what happened. I felt grateful for it. Because without it, I never would have found out what I was truly capable of.